What is up, everyone? Prometheus here. Today I'd like to talk about Bloodborne and some recent films. So, if you saw the title, you're probably wondering, how will it work? I bet you're wondering, how could this work? Like, how could Bloodborne be adapted into a movie? Well, after seeing the filmography of a certain horror director, I think we found the perfect match. A director that could adapt Bloodborne into a worthy film that could even be better than the game. Which director am I talking about? Well, if you saw the thumbnail, it's obvious. I am, of course, talking about the director Robert Eggers, not to be confused with Roger Ebert, the film critic who died. But Robert Eggers is a very recent filmmaker who has proven to be an absolute genius when it comes to horror and just a gothic, darker aesthetic. In his recent work, Nosferatu is the film that proved to me that he could be perfect for a Bloodborne movie. He's also directed The Lighthouse, The Northman, The Witch, which are also fantastic movies. So, what makes him perfect for a Bloodborne movie? Well, one, the aesthetic. He has a dark, gothic aesthetic to a lot of his films. And guess what Bloodborne has? A dark, gothic aesthetic. Nosferatu has a dark gothic aesthetic, and its setting is not too different from that of Bloodborne's. He has a great way of depicting horror, evil, demonic things on screen, and I think he would masterfully put Bloodborne to the screen. For example, his filmography is stacked. Recently, he did Nosferatu, which was great, and The Northman was great, showing that he could also strongly depict other cultures and mythologies. The Lighthouse, although not really a horror film, still was suspenseful and atmospheric. The Witch was terrifying. But what really brought this thought to mind, this pitch, was his recent film Nosferatu. Just let me show you a shot from that film. Does that not look like something pulled straight from Bloodborne? The city streets depicted, the darkness, it's almost on point. So the dark aesthetic, the color coding, the atmosphere of this movie has just proven to me that he would be perfect for an adaptation of Bloodborne. Now, I bet you're wondering, what should the Bloodborne movie be about? How should it be structured? Well, that's what I'm about to talk about. I don't think it should be structured as just a retelling of what happens in the game. No. I don't think they should do that. I think instead they should make this movie sort of a prequel, set before the events of the game, during the fall of the city of Yharnam. So, what I think is that they should base this movie off of one of the tragic characters in the lore. I bet you're wondering which character. Well, there's a lot of candidates. There's Gehrman, Lawrence, Lady Maria, but I think the best candidate is perhaps the most iconic character from that game, which is, of course, Ludwig the Holy Blade. I think this film should tell the story of Lawrence, his rise, his fall, his work at the healing church. The film should focus on him, as well as having other characters from the Bloodborne lore show up, such as Lawrence and Gehrman, maybe even Lady Maria. Showing him work as a hunter, slaying large beasts, and also giving us some insight into the healing church, while at the same time also showing not only his rise and fall, but the fall of Yharnam itself as it slowly crumbles around him. I think that Robert Eggers could perfectly capture that aesthetic, that gothic, that dreadful, dark aesthetic. This film would be absolutely horrific, and I bet Bloodborne fans would absolutely love it. If he ends up directing a Bloodborne adaptation, which they better do it. If you're watching this, you're from Software, you're missing a big opportunity, an easy $1 billion by not having this guy direct a Bloodborne movie or series for you. So yeah, it should focus on him, not as a beast, but actually he was once a human, a hunter. So show him as a hunter, of course. show him hunting beasts, and then later in the film show his transformation into the titular beast that we know him as. And at the end of the film, I think either the final shot is maybe him lying in the boss arena that we fight him in, the hunter, his silhouette of the hunter walking in, him rising and then screaming, black screen. Or maybe even just include the entire boss fight as the final scene of the film. That could work. But either way, yeah, I think what they could do is depict him, his work for the Healing Church. Give us some sight into the Healing Church, what they had done in the Bloodborne lore and the history of Yharnam. What they did and how it affected Yharnam. We can watch as the Gothic city of Yharnam falls to the beasts. We can see the hunters. We can see Lawrence. Lawrence could be a strong part of this plot as well. Now, the only skepticism I have about a potential adaptation like this is that people who aren't really familiar with the Bloodborne lore would not really understand this well. That's why I think maybe they should establish certain things a bit about it before, like near the beginning of the film, and then kind of showing the fall of Yharnam, the Healing Church, and Ludwig. And yeah, so I bet some people might have other skepticisms of a film like this, but I think Robert Eggers, there couldn't be a better director for a Bloodborne movie other than Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers. His aesthetic, his style, just the true horror of his filmmaking would be perfect to capture Bloodborne. He was born to direct an adaptation of this. Now a bit back sometime this year, From Software actually did announce that they are open to an adaptation of Elden Ring if they have strong partners. Well, they didn't necessarily say just Elden Ring. I think they could also be open to adaptations of their other properties, as long as there's stronger partners for said adaptation. Well, Robert Eggers is the perfect business partner to create a film based off this. Ludwig is the perfect character to base this film around. And as seen with the recent video game TV series that are all great, like Arcane, Fallout, The Last of Us, those have proven that video game adaptations could be masterpieces. However, those are TV series. And most video game movies, specifically, aren't long enough to kind of capture everything that we love about the game. They could be weirdly paced or just be outright bad, as seen with Borderlands. Again, there have been plenty of terrible video game adaptations as well, like Borderlands. The Minecraft movie could suck, but also be really fun, who knows. But recently, actually just today, there was the monumental release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is currently one of the best rated video game movies, specifically movies, not TV shows. And it is fantastic. Like, it's got great critic reviews and great audience review scores. I myself am not a Sonic fan, but honestly, me not being a Sonic fan would mean, like, my review of the film would be completely unbiased. Because I try to be as objective and critical as possible, not being influenced by my personal feelings on certain movies or video games or shows when reviewing them. And I haven't seen this film yet, but I'm going to see it sometime during the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. I knew it would be good, but like I thought it would be like a 75 or low 80s at best, but it's looking really good. Maybe even Oscar worthy, who knows? And it totally beat out Mufasa the Lion King. But what this film has shown is that with enough love, passion, and faithfulness to the original source material, video game movies can be great. Now, a Bloodborne movie based around the story of Ludwig, or some other character, but more preferably Ludwig, because he has the most, I think he's the most worthy of an adaptation. But what the problem that arises with a adaptation like this is the runtime. It could be made into a series, a Bloodborne TV series. That could definitely work. I would absolutely think that could work. But I think it'd be easier to make money if it was a movie, because then you'd make, like, you're guaranteed to make maybe $1 billion, maybe nearly $1 billion, or over $1 billion. Like, this could be one of the highest grossing films of its time. But what the other skepticism is that if it ends up being a movie, it's the runtime, the pacing, because because the story of Ludwig isn't a short one, and there's a lot of material you can add in. So this could end up being like a 2.5 hour, maybe even 3 hour movie. But if it's paced well, if it's masterfully crafted, if it has that Bloodborne aesthetic and a bit of that Robert Eggers flair of horror thrown into it, it could be a love letter to not only Bloodborne as a whole, but just video game adaptations. It could set a new bar, a new standard in which all other video game adaptations are measured. Sure, that was already kind of set by shows like Fallout, Last of Us, and of course Arcane, but this could set a new bar for video game movies specifically, not shows. Now, I could also see this end up being like maybe an animated series. That could also work, but I think with good enough CGI, maybe even practical effects, and good enough acting, good enough aesthetic and atmosphere and faithfulness, a Robert Eggers adaptation of the Bloodborne, specifically Ludwig again, could work really well. And honestly, us Bloodborne players love the game so much. We put in dozens of hours into the game. We would be more than up for spending 3 hours watching a Bloodborne movie, honestly. So yeah, if you're watching this, get this to From Software, get this proposal to Robert Eggers, do everything in your power to get this to these guys and get the film in production. It's like, come on, you're missing a big opportunity From Software not choosing to make this film. It's right there. You can make an easy $1 billion from this. Come on. Yeah, so yeah, a Bloodborne movie directed by Robert Eggers that tells the story of Ludwig the Holy Blade or some other figure in the Bloodborne universe, and that shows the character. The kind of does another thing that I'm a bit that I want there to be in a film like this is world building. We need to get Yharnam itself should be a character. We should establish different factions, the Healing Church, the Workshop. We get some insight. We get different characters outside of just Ludwig, again, like the previous mentioned Gehrman, Lawrence, and Lady Maria. And we get to see some pretty brutal action scenes, of course, because the fighting, the gimmick weapons, that kind of stuff, you got to keep that in the film. Come on. Now, yeah, an adaptation like that would be guaranteed to be great. It could not only be one of the greatest video game movies of all time, it could potentially be one of the greatest adaptations of all time. And honestly, now thinking of a title for this film, Bloodborne the Holy Blade. There you go. It's easy as that. Bloodborne the Holy Blade, a film about Ludwig the Holy Blade, directed by Robert Eggers. Of course, with a lot of involvement from Software as well to make sure that it's faithful. But I'm sure Robert Eggers would be respectable towards the source material, while also injecting his own style and atmosphere to it. And Nosferatu is a lot like Bloodborne with its not Victorian. Its aesthetic. The setting is a lot similar to it, and it can work really, really well. So there's that. Bloodborne adaptation directed by Robert Eggers. From Software. Audience, if you're watching this, get this to From Software. Get this to Robert Eggers. They're missing a big opportunity by not doing this. Yeah, the series is already successful. Elden Ring Night Reign's coming out soon, and it's looking to be a lot like Fortnite and Hades. It's probably going to make a lot of money, of course, because everyone loves From Software. They're the best modern video game studio. They don't fall victim to the tropes of video games these days. No microtransactions, high-quality content, and no difficulty options. And I think a Bloodborne adaptation, specifically by Robert Eggers, could also not fall victim to the modern movie tropes and video game adaptation tropes. It could work super well. So yeah, if this film gets greenlit, I am more than excited. I am really looking forward to a lot of video game adaptations, like the Zelda film. Legend of Zelda is one of my favorite franchises in existence, and I am really excited. A bit skeptical because they have the writer of The Rise of Skywalker as the writer of that film, and you know how much I absolutely hate Rise of Skywalker. Specifically, its writing. So hopefully they either fire that guy or Nintendo really pressures him, Derek Connolly, really pressures Derek Connolly to make it good. Don't make it a poorly written mess. I want the Zelda film to be good. Wes Ball is a good fit for the director. I loved Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. He captures events really well, and he's proven himself to be a big fan, not just another director taking on the role of adapting a game like this. He is a true fan that is willing to work his butt off to make it great. And since Nintendo's heavily involved, I think it's probably going to be pretty good. And the other video game adaptation that I am more than confident to be good is because of its director, is the Ghost of Tsushima movie. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite video games of all time, and it has a lot of elements of film to it as well. It's really cinematic at times, and it's perfect for an adaptation. Like, the director of John Wick is directing the adaptation of Ghost of Tsushima, which is perfect. They better get the voice actor of Jin Sakai to act Jin Sakai in the movie, because he looks just like him in real life. I think they modeled him after him, in fact. It's the easiest choice, the easiest casting ever. And plus, from videos I've seen, he's also able to wield a katana in real life as well. And for maybe Lord Shimura, just get the guy from Shonen, he also looks pretty good for that. And with seeing Robert Eggers attached to a Bloodborne movie would also make me confident that it would be fantastic. Not just a great video game movie, but just a masterpiece of a film in general. Like how something like The Simpsons Hit and Run is not only a great adaptation of the show, but also just a great game in general. So yeah, Robert Eggers could create his best film yet if he directs a Bloodborne adaptation. And I think Ludwig could be a great protagonist, not like a hero, not a villain, but someone that just gets caught in the chaos. In this film, we can watch Yharnam's descent into hell happening around Ludwig and the whole Healing Church, as we see just the different factions and how the choices of certain people, the rise of the beasts in Yharnam ultimately leads to Yharnam becoming this absolute hellscape that we know in the game. And maybe if this Bloodborne movie is great, they could lead to other adaptations, like maybe a film about Lady Maria, maybe a film about Gehrman, who knows? Like, there's honestly, like, they could make numerous movies, or maybe just a series, each certain episodes being dedicated to different characters. But I'm specifically looking towards Bloodborne: The Holy Blade, a Robert Eggers directed a film adaptation of Bloodborne starring Ludwig the Holy Blade. So yeah, that's that. Get this idea to them ASAP, because it's basically free money for them. You can make some of the most grotesque scenes, some of the most grotesque creatures with good enough CGI and effects. Again, I don't hate CGI. Like, I think if it's good enough, it's worth it. But I think they could also put in efforts for practical effects in this as well, but CGI works fine, so long as it's good. So yeah, either this or an animated Bloodborne adaptation, that could also work. But Robert Eggers there's no other more befitting director for something like this. That's it. That's all I gotta say. See you in the next one. And From Software, if you're watching this, even if this adaptation costs a lot of money, you will make probably like double that amount of money from this film. It's box office, because people love Bloodborne. Like, I'm fine with no remaster or sequel, but no Bloodborne movie directed by Robert Eggers. Come on, you're missing a big opportunity. That's all I gotta say. See you in the next one. Prometheus out.